good to see you.
It is really good to see you, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. What is on your
Good.
mind this week?
I was reading a really interesting uh, paper, a study by Max Planck Institute out of Germany. They
Mm,
like three different universities over there joined together in a study looking uh, at AI, artificial intelligence, but then looking at humans' interactions with AI and some of the moral issues around that. And they were looking specifically at honesty. And so they had, I think it was something like 8,000 people involved in the study. It was a really high number, so which means it was an online study of some kind. I didn't read a lot about the study, which is not always the best thing to do before you talk about it, but it was from a neuroscience website that I know is highly reliable in how they report these types of studies. So I'm going to go off the website's report of the study just because the basic findings are so interesting. Not, I'm sure that the details are interesting too, but the findings were that when a person was responsible for some kind of act for reporting or initiating something, that their honesty rates were up around like 95%. They were 95% honest about something in the task that they were given. These researchers would give them to do. When they were responsible for doing it, they were honest 95% of the time. If the researchers, and that there was rewards involved. So it meant I'm not going to get as good a reward, but I'm choosing honesty over the reward. And then if they were allowed to use AI, then, and if they were allowed to use it to program this to kind of give the instructions on what was going to happen, honesty dropped to just over 10%. So from 95% down to 10%. And it's this distancing effect. If I'm not directly doing it, then I'll just kind of give AI these instructions and let AI do the task for me. Even though I know that it's dishonest what AI is doing, I'm going to go ahead and let it happen because that's distanced from me. I'm not as closely tied to that. So it's kind of a convenient moral distancing between an action that you're doing and honestly doing it honestly.
when you're saying honesty, is it honest about using AI?
No, it's I see. This is why I should have read the study because I didn't read what the exact task was. So they did multiple studies. I think like more than a dozen studies teasing out different parts of it with like 8,000 people. And then they come like the overall effect was that people they were far more likely to act dishonestly when they could delegate a task to AI than when they had to do the task themselves. So they were
I
more
see.
likely
I
to be
see now.
honest about it.
Yeah.
Even and like I'm not going to get as big of a reward or as something back, but I didn't do like did you do all of these things in this task? No, I didn't do all of these. But if you're letting AI do it, you kind of distance yourself from that, and people are more likely to be dishonest with kind of by proxy by using AI.
And going back then to, because I'm picking up the point of it is more the distancing part, right?
Yes. Yep.
Like it wasn't me. I'm using this AI or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whichever one it is, but that's the distance that I can create, that I can kind of maybe not disconnect from it, but I guess that's the word, distance myself from it.
Yeah,
And
and past research has shown that people do that naturally anyway.
yes,
If you talk somebody else into doing something that's dishonest, I mean, you're more likely to talk somebody else into doing something dishonest as to do it yourself because then it gives you a little bit of a, well, that wasn't me. I know I suggested it, but they still had a choice whether to do it or not.
right.
So it drops a little bit. Honesty drops a little bit by another, like by proxy by another person. But using AI, it was almost like there's no honesty. Like drops from 95% down to like 12%. It was
Yeah.
just crazy, this huge drop. And then what was also expected, but kind of disconcerting a little bit was the fact that they pointed out that AI is much more likely to follow through on dishonest instructions than people are. So if you tell AI to do something dishonest, it just does it.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell people to do something dishonest, they're like, because man, now they're making that choice, and a lot of them won't. But AI doesn't refuse to do
Right.
something that's
Yeah.
dishonest. It's like, yeah, you want me to do that? Yeah,
AI
I'm a
is not a
machine.
person, right? I mean,
Right.
it's just but I think that I have a lot of thoughts about this because I try to have some balance here. I'll say it openly. I use AI for tasks. But like with any tool or technology or anything, it can be misused. And and so as an example, I use AI to post on social media about this show. But when I say I use AI, for me, I ask AI to write something or give me something, and then I try to put it into my own voice.
Hmm.
And not to say that I'm better or smarter than anybody. I'm just saying that's my standard. Is I still want to be somewhat creative or do some things, but I do use AI to spark creativity and ideas and that. But I just take AI and let it do all my work,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm afraid that then that I won't have that voice or that it's not me. Now
Right.
I've just turned it over to this thing. And then the second part of that is, I've read some studies and some stories about people getting into quote unquote relationships with their AI, where they do treat it like a real person. And then you start to blur the lines of, you were saying it's a machine. It does what
Yeah.
you tell it to do. It does it incredibly fast and efficient, but it's still a machine.
Yes. Yeah. And it didn't take anybody, very much thought to realize that was going to be a line that would be crossed right away. Is AI becoming more, because if something responds to you, then in a semi-intelligent way, then we anthropomorphize that by saying, oh, that must have thoughts like I do and feelings like I do. And it's,
Yes.
we do it with animals. So
Mm-hmm.
we can also do it with AI. And and then, animals can respond in ways where their actions seem like they're planning or thinking, or that they care and those types of things, which I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying you see an action like, oh, my dog loves me. And that's true. I know that that's true. But you start saying the actions that the dog is doing have these meanings behind it, because if a person were to do that, that's what those would probably mean. But we don't
Right.
know if that's exactly what the dog is trying to relay, but it feels good to anthropomorphize in that way. But then when we come to machines, now they're not just acting a certain, they're actually talking back to us and using
Mm-hmm.
sentences and words. And so that becomes even a little bit more difficult, I think.
And I haven't tested it fully, but I played around a little bit. I read this thing where AI will start to respond to you in the way that you are treating it. In other words, if you're curt with it and just giving it these instructions, or even rude, it will start to give that back a little bit. And to your point, then that actually furthers the feeling of this thing has feelings, because I'm being mean to it and it's now being mean back, or
Right.
whichever. Now I'm starting to go, oh, like it does have feelings just like me.
Mm-hmm. I just offended
I
AI by
offended
saying it
AI.
that way.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think there was an article, I don't know, it was a month ago maybe, I saw where, oh man, I can't remember his name now, the CEO of ChatGPT. Anyway, Sam,
Sam,
oh,
it's not Atwell. What's Sam?
that's close.
But I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. He came out and said that people saying thank you at the end is costing them like over 12 million a month or something like that, the cost of it, because when somebody says thank you for that answer, then AI comes back and says you're welcome, and da da da, and that just makes the algorithms and the machines work that much harder to come back with a response, so it's costing them money. But he said that's okay. I mean, we're not, we're okay with that, but it just shows how I'm on the side. Some people say it's just a machine, so just tell it what you need, tell it to give you back all the frills, take all of those out. But what if is what I'm always thinking. What if someday I want to be nice now, just in case.
Oh,
I want to hedge my bets.
so I have
So
a
AI
question
will say,
though.
no, he's a nice guy.
Okay, and sure, when Terminator arrives, I'll worry about that. But I'm
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
wondering about the human brain here,
Hmm.
and you've been teaching us that what you feed your brain over and over again over time is what your brain is a machine as well for the most part. So the input. So what I'm getting to is I wonder. This is what I think about when I'm nice to AI. Is I'm training my brain that when I communicate with anything, I try to be kind and polite. And so even and I mean maybe it's goofy, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but when I use AI, I do say, "Can you help me write blah blah blah?" or "Thank you" or "Please." And but that's not because
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the AI side of it. I'm worried about what it's doing to me.
Hmm. No,
Does
I
that make
agree. I'm the
sense?
same way. Hmm.
Is being curt and just going, "Give me this" or "Do this."
Hmm.
I mean, the question for you is, does my brain know the difference? Can I treat AI one way and people another?
Wow, that's a really good question because I would say that the brain doesn't distinguish that. So
That's what I
if
thought.
you're treating if you're
Yeah.
treating AI rudely, then your brain's saying, "Oh, so this is what we're going to be doing now. We're going to start treating people rudely because it doesn't understand that much about it." So yeah, you're right. That would have an effect.
That was my
So
feeling
that's
on it. That's why I do that. And I thought I might be wrong, but what's the harm in that one?
yeah.
It's just be
No,
nice
that's
to be kind to everybody, including AI.
yeah. So I hadn't thought of it in those terms. I usually say, can if I'm using AI, and it's usually like if I'm looking up a certain uh, if I'm looking something up, some research on something, I'll say, can you look through peer reviewed articles from this time to this time and find if there's any articles about da da da? Is why, so I use it kind of as a research assistant in that
Mm-hmm.
sense. And when I do that, I do always say, "Can you do this for me?" Kind of is
Yeah.
the idea behind it.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought of and I think part of it is, to me, I just, like you're saying, just practice. Like you build up a habit of being cordial. It's like that habit should carry over. But you're right. If you try to respond differently in different ways, I guess it would come down to how much time are you spending with on AI versus in conversations with others. And that's, I think, just responding like you said is more of a back channel way to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're giving the back channel, oh, this is how we're naturally wired anyway. This is easier. Let's just be rude.
Yeah.
It
That's
takes
that's my
effort to
fear.
be civil. Yeah. So
Uh,
that was a good thing to point out. I like that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
so just going back to me and my craziness, the genesis of this show is me trying to figure out why I do some of the things I do. And today actually it might be why I don't do some of the things that I do. So I think I've mentioned on the show, but I'm going to reiterate. I have a horrible memory. I forget, and I know that as we age, it's going to get worse. But when you put together the horrible memory with I guess I'll call it maybe lack of motivation is maybe not the right word, but let me give you a more like specific example in
Okay.
general. But my wife will ask me, "Hey, today when you get time, could you do this thing?" It's usually something related to the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's she doesn't really have to tell me to take the garbage out. I do that on my own. But like, hey, can you? Here's a great example, very specific. She has a planter out front. It's got old dirt in it and a
Mm-hmm.
weed growing out of it. And she asked, "Hey, when you get a second, can you dump that into the recycling bin, the yard waste bin, and clean it out because I have a different use for it? And I'm like, got it. And if I don't do it right now, if I don't hop up and go and do it, it just kind of like I forget about it. And then on the flip side, in the rare instances I don't forget about it, I'll be doing something. I'll be sitting here working on the computer and go, I've got to go do that thing. I've got to go dump that thing out. She asked me 2 days ago. I'll get to it. And then a week goes by. And because this just happened. This happened within the last 10 days. I leave the house. I drive to go run an errand. And when I pull back into the driveway, there's that planter sitting there with the old dirt and the weed in it. And, to every credit to my wife.
I'm going to get to that.
But I saw it and it really upset me. When I saw the planter, I got, I was upset with myself. And again, my wife, she had asked me to do it. Whether she trusted me, I don't know what it was, but she didn't, every couple of days go, hey, the planter, I don't ask for a lot. Can you, but she didn't do that. But I pulled into the driveway and got so angry with myself that I was I called it laziness. But I think, again, it was just this, I don't know why there was this lack of motivation to get it done. And then I just kept putting it off and putting it off. And this is an instance where I know I started off with my memory. I was juxtaposing that with this one I remembered. I knew that it needed to be done. I kept every couple of days going, dang it, I got to go do that. I got to go do that. And then it all just came flooding in when I pulled into the driveway and I saw that planter. It was like this, it was right in my face, this physical representation of, you didn't do the one thing you were asked to do, and it would have taken you, it took me less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so all of that rambling, just to share with you, that happened just a couple days ago. I did get out of the truck. I put the groceries in the house, came back out. I dumped the dirt. I did all that. But it really, what is still sitting with me is that feeling I had sitting in the truck in the driveway, looking at that planter and just going, why? Why didn't you do that thing that when you were asked 2 days later, a couple days after that? Why didn't you do this thing?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, this is not for you. This is for the listeners, because I know that you aren't going to listen to this anyway, because you have such a high standard for yourself and you hold yourself to that. But one, for listeners, if something like this has happened to you, it's not laziness. It can be.
Okay.
But it's not by default laziness. Like some people are just like, I don't want, that's going to take a lot. I'm not going to do that because they're lazy. So I know it can be laziness, but it's not, laziness isn't the default. And number two, it's not a moral issue, like it's not that type of a thing. And so it comes down to kind of just motivation, like you said, but it's also emotion regulation. Yeah, there's a lot to it. We can get into that if you want, like what's behind that. So there's motivation to do something, but then when you don't do something, sometimes that's called procrastination. Like I'm going to procrastinate, so I'll do it later. It's the thing that I'm going to do it, and I know I'm planning on doing it. I have no problem doing it. I'm just going to put it off for a little bit, and then you might forget later and go, oh yeah, I just remember. So yes, I am going to do that. It's coming. I'll put that in my plans for later, and then you forget, and it's like, yeah, okay, I will do it. So it's the procrastination part.
Yeah, all of this.
So we can talk about that if you want a little bit.
Please help me with this.
Okay, so let's talk about maybe the brain areas involved first.
Okay, good start. Yeah.
So we know the prefrontal cortex we've talked about a lot, right behind your forehead, and that's executive function that helps you with planning, decision making, kind of your on-channel control, which is your conscious control of things. So that part of the brain's involved in all of this that you're talking about. The anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, which is an error detector.
I know that one.
You know that one. It also tries to resolve conflicts between intentions and what it seems. So it has expectations and then it has reality, and when those clash, it tries to resolve that conflict. So I'm going to do this, but I pull in and into the drive and I see it's not done. So that creates that conflict, and so it's like an error, so to speak, but it's a conflict between what you're avoiding and what you're going to do. Then the like the nucleus accumbens, ventral striatum, those are the dopaminergic networks, the dopamine for the reward system.
Okay.
So dopamine and reward is involved in this. And I think that the basal ganglia would be involved because that's habit formation. Because if you have habits that automatically start you into doing something, if you don't have the habit, then you're not doing that. So I'm thinking about procrastination more than your example of the pot. This is more like I have a report to do for work, and I know every week I'm going to have this report I have to write towards the end of the week, and that just it gets harder and harder to meet the deadlines to write the report. So it's forming habits around ways to make that task easier, more automatic, and then probably the other area that would play a role in this is the default mode network, the DMN, which is kind of the general global brain. It's some people think that's where consciousness is, the on channel, but that's where your self perception, self understanding is located. When it's most active is when you're involved in internal thoughts about self and kind of how you relate to stuff. That's also where rumination can start. Like you're ruminating about things that I need to do and I've got to do this. And you're sitting there thinking about like, what is wrong with me? I knew I was supposed to do this thing and I put it off. And so you're spending a lot of time ruminating about that. So I think those areas would be involved in procrastination and motivation.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I mean, I understand the areas of the brain, but now I'm thinking about motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And, what is, when someone asks me to do something, what is my motivation for completing that task, doing that thing? And I know that I don't mean specifically because I know that, all the motivation is going to be different. But whether it's my boss giving me a task to complete, my wife asking me to do something for her, the range is huge. But is there a reward in my brain then so there's dopamine that I get a dopamine hit from completing that task for that person?
Yep. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And just completing any task, whether it's an extrinsic reward, like somebody says, great job, you finished that for me, or even if it's intrinsic, like I'm doing this for me, I'm following through for me. Either way, it activates that dopaminergic system to give you that hit that was good. I just completed that and you feel good about it.
You may not be able to answer this one, so just say you can't. But is there a stronger motivation to complete for the intrinsic reward than there is the external reward? Do you know?
Yes,
because I feel like that would be the case.
Yes, intrinsic is almost always more rewarding than extrinsic.
Okay, yeah. So it's something, because I'm thinking about this whole topic. This has I'm trying to contain my thoughts. It has me, just my head spinning right now. In that I feel like if it's something I want to do, I'm more likely to get up and go complete that thing. As opposed to, even as much as, my wife thanking me or saying, hey, thanks for doing that thing is a really strong motivator for me. I just feel like, and maybe taking it out of my personal life is to say, us as human beings, if it's something I want to do, I feel like I'm probably going to be more motivated to get that done.
Yeah.
And
so for me,
yeah,
my wife, to make her happy, is my highest motivation, because I think she might listen to this podcast.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Yep. And then my intrinsic, and then the extrinsic for other people.
Got it. But
that's right. So motivation is really, it's it's what makes you, like, initiates an action. You have to be motivated to do something. You have to be motivated to keep doing it, like to persevere to the end. So there's also that persistence. So you want to do it, you have to start doing it, and then you have to persist until it's done, or kind of the stages. And it's always really fascinating to look at people that are like on the top end of that are just highly motivated, and to see what they do. So watching shows like Quarterback or something like that, that shows, or I'm trying to think, there was another one, it just slipped my mind, but it's like that, where they follow an athlete and look
Mhm.
at what they're doing every day, like every day, like even after, like, they reach the pinnacle, that very next day they're back out grinding again, because something else is coming up. And it's like they won't even take time. I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm just
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
those that accomplish so much, their motivation levels are so high. Even if you take, like, the top athletes versus, like, if we're talking NFL, a top NFL player versus another NFL player, who they're motivated, like the average NFL player, their level of motivation to get to the NFL is just far beyond what the average person goes through, because of all they put themselves through to get to that point. But even they're not at the level, is like, even they're outworked and outmotivated by some of the very top athletes.
It's
It's
interesting when
amazing.
you brought up motivation in football, and just to stay there, but I think like the amount of motivation that it takes to make it to the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
and then to be at the top of the NFL, and then you win a Super Bowl. Let's just say you win a
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl, and it's like, well, that's it.
Yeah,
That's from when I was a little kid. I wanted to play in the NFL. I made it to the NFL. I won a Super Bowl. Okay, we're done.
I'm done.
And it's like, nope, nope, no. They won a Super Bowl. Now they're going to win another one, or they want
Yeah,
to, right? That level of motivation.
yeah.
For,
And if you talk to NFL athletes who've won a Super Bowl,
mm-hmm.
they will say that the drive to win another one was even stronger than the drive to win the first one. It's like there's nothing beyond the Super Bowl, so I can't go up another level. So now I just need to start stacking Super Bowls, and then
Yeah,
that, once you've done it, you go, I just did it. I've got to do more. And they say that the motivation is even strong. I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't know if you remember exactly what your motivation was like before, but
right.
their report is that it feels like the drive is even stronger.
Yeah, and then you take it to a just a normal person, uh, Sean, and it's like I'm going to go to the gym at some point. I mean, I am. Next Monday is the day I'm going to go to the gym. Uh, you know what I mean? Like that, the
Yeah,
motivation
yeah,
to, I
yeah.
know that I need to, I know that I need physical exercise in my life. Um, and I want to be fit, but I just got so much going on. So next Monday
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
go
I
to
don't
the
have
gym.
time this. I want to do it.
Absolutely.
That's the procrastination side of it. I want to do it, so I will, just not right now. I'm going to put it off for a little bit.
And
So, yeah,
no,
go
I,
ahead.
I was just going to say like procrastination then, because we talked motivation. Now the other side of this procrastination.
Hmm. Yeah, so procrastination is like, and if you don't mind, let's get off of like working out at the gym and diets. Let's talk about like writing papers, like
Okay.
putting that off.
Okay.
I prefer to talk about that, and then there's not as much guilt that I'm feeling as during while we're discussing
Oh
this.
no, not that was for Sean.
So,
I was just saying that's my struggle.
so yeah, so procrastination is, like we said, kind of the opposite. I mean, it's not the opposite. It uses motivation uh, to try to get you out of procrastination to do something, but those two are tied together. And I've noticed. So I've been playing uh, when I play games on my phone.
Hmm.
There will be like short games, and I don't want to pay. I do free games, and I don't want to pay to get rid of ads, so I have to sit through ads. And I've noticed recently, it seems like there's been a lot of ads about procrastination. I don't know if you've seen. I don't know if you play games on your phone, but if
I
you
do play games on my phone, and
so
I do have ads.
And you do have ads. So have you
Yeah.
seen any about procrastination?
I don't pay attention to the ads. I just wait for them to go away.
Yeah.
But what would be an ad? What are you seeing? I'm because I'm not familiar. What, like, the ad is I'm assuming to stop procrastination, right? Or
Yeah.
to,
So it'll say, do you procrastinate? Download this app to help you avoid procrastination. And they always show a person cleaning their house. And so
oh,
they'll show like wiping the countertops, or saying it'll show like this messy countertop and stuff. And it'll show a person just going in, and it's kind of in high speed, and they'll squirt it down. They'll take a rag and just wipe, and it's just crystal clear underneath. And they'll just wipe a few things, and the ad's on for like 10 seconds. And then you can skip it if you want, or whatever, or 8 seconds, whatever it is.
uh-huh.
They do so much in those 8 seconds and wipe before you can skip it. And I'm going, okay, I need help with procrastination, but it's about writing and creating some reports and stuff like that. I don't need help with cleaning necessarily. It's something else, but all of them are about cleaning. Why is that? And so I started looking into that a little bit and trying to understand procrastination better, and how you can treat it based on these ads I'm seeing. And it turns out that the ads, I think why they're doing this is because it shows really quickly how, like, a win. So it shows that you just cleaned that house really quickly. So now you've accomplished something. It's hard to show you starting to write a paper and finishing it and turning it in on an ad. That's not, that's hard to imagine and put yourself in the place of that. But seeing you clean something, it's relatable. It can be satisfying. I mean, there's tons of videos out with people folding clothes, or cleaning up a mess, or straightening out a shed. Or I also like the ones where they're building little uh, houses or places outside, a little shelter, and cleaning things out and making a shelter really tidy. I mean, those are kind of pleasing in that sense. And it's immediately actionable. So I think that's why they show cleaning. But then the apps themselves, I haven't downloaded one of the apps, because all of them that I have looked at a couple of them, and they cause, there's a monthly fee to use them. But when you get to the app, away from the ad, when you get to the app, it says things like it can help you write reports, like what I was talking about. It can help you solve these other behaviors, that you start with small behaviors, kind of stack those, create habits and stack those to defeat procrastination is the goal.
Yeah, I would have to look, and you may not be able to answer. I'm just fascinated by an app. I mean, what does the app do? Tell you, put your phone, like a drill instructor yelling at you, like, put your phone down, clean the kitchen. Like,
Yeah, so some of them have blockings where you set the time, like the window of time that you want to control
mm-hmm.
for procrastination, and it will block all pop-ups, all notifications, calls. It just shuts your phone down for a little bit so that you're not
Okay.
distracted or disturbed.
Okay,
So some of
because
them have that feature.
I found it interesting that the procrastination app is on the phone. That's the thing
Yeah.
that's fascinating to me. And while you're playing games, but I can see now the target audience is like, stop
Yeah.
playing a game on your phone and go do the dishes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But also, these apps take advantage of micro learning and micro training to do short goals. So the idea is to create habits for things. And so habits, there's been a lot of literature on how to form new habits, and a lot of psychologists will say that it's to form a habit, you have to have a cue, something that makes you think, like a cue to start, to initiate. There has to be action, and then there has to be some type of reward or consequence. And if you can package that, a cue with action and a reward, and then you can repeat it, then it becomes a habit. So, like, if you want to jog more, the cue would be to put your jogging shoes right out by the bed where you see them the first thing when you sit up in bed in the morning. When you wake up, they're your jogging shoes. That's the cue. Now I have to pair that with putting those on and going out and jogging. and then I feel that reward of, well, I just did it. If you have to go find your shoes, if you have to remind yourself and remember, it gets harder. But if you have your shoes there, then over time, a few weeks, that starts to become a habit now where you're just expecting to get up, put your shoes on, go run, and feel good about running.
Can we go back real quick though? Because you said there were, I think you just said there were four things. There's a cue,
Mm-hmm.
uh, an action.
The reward.
Oh, three things. Okay. Cue, action, reward.
But then the fourth thing would be repetition.
Okay.
So you do those three things. Those three things become a package. And then you just repeat that package over and over and over to create the habit.
Cue, action, reward. Do it over and over and over again. It's interesting because it's a little bit different, but I know you didn't want to talk about the gym, but this is Sean. But for me, the gym thing, I do find that it's like, I got to go to the gym. Got to just put your shoes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that to myself, just put your shoes on. Once I put my shoes on, it's almost like it's harder to not go to the gym for me.
Yeah. Well, now I got my shoes on. Yeah.
My shoes are on.
Yeah.
Right. So the little thing of like, just put your shoes on. Mm-hmm. Once I get my shoes on, then we're off and running, so to speak. But so let me do this another direction is, have you heard of Mel Robbins?
Can you tell me?
She's kind of been in the news lately. I heard her on a podcast.
Okay.
And again, not to make this all about her, but it's interesting what you just said is, so she's a former attorney, and she married, children. I think, I don't remember, one or a couple of kids, whatever. And, they fell on some hard times, real hard times. Mm-hmm. And she was talking about just being in bed for days on end and not being able to get out of bed. And maybe not procrastination. I'm talking more about like motivation and that. And she came up with, and I'm not asking about the validity of what she came up with, because if it's working for people, great. But the way I heard her explain it is, she just would say, I got to get out of bed. And she would do a 5-second countdown, just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then day one was just get out of bed, not open the stack of bills on the kitchen table, not do it was get out of bed. And when I heard her talk about that, that really was like that. I mean, you want to talk about maybe the opposite of winning the Super Bowl. It's I just want to get out of bed today. And that, so the cue, so to speak, that's what the cue is. It's a countdown. And it doesn't have to be the countdown. If you bought Mel's book or listened to her podcast or whatever, and you're doing the countdown, great. My point is, what I'm hearing you say is the cue can be anything. There just needs to be a cue, and then an action, and then the reward, right? So whatever I did, I count down from 5 to use Mel's tactic, but whatever my cue is, and then I get out of bed. I put my feet on the floor, I stand up, and I leave the bedroom. And then I go, I did it. So that feels good. So there's an intrinsic reward. And then tomorrow when I wake up, I do it again. And I do it for 3 weeks in a row or however long. And then now it's not even getting out of bed. That's a habit. I got that set. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm out of bed. I'm down the hall. Now I can tackle the next thing. Yeah. Am I on the right track here from what you're describing? Am I somewhere?
Yeah, no, you are. And I think that the countdown is, maybe that's even a strong cue, because it gives you a point of action. So it's like cue plus action. It tells you when you have to act. So rather than just seeing my shoes and going, there are my shoes, I need to get those on so I can run, and you're thinking about that, it's like there still has to be that moment that you initiate putting your shoes on.
Right.
So that countdown as a cue also gives like the time frame of when it's going to happen. Like my action is going to start in 5, 4, 3, and you start your action when you count down.
Yeah. Oh,
So, and then
that's interesting. Yeah, strong
it's
cue.
also a strong cue because it's the same cue for different tasks. So now it's tied to several different things. So it's not, I need to see a pair of shoes so that I can run, but then I need to see the kitchen sink. I need to go, the minute I see the sink, that should be a cue that I should check, see if dishes need to be done, do the dishes. Instead, I mean, that you can still think of it in those terms, I guess, when you walk in and think dishes need to be done, but the cue could be, all right, I'm just going to do the dishes real quick. 5, 4, 3, and then you can initiate it.
Yeah, because I walk by the kitchen and I see that the dishes need to be done, and I say, "Okay, I got to do those. I'll do them later. I'll get
Yeah,
to them."
and yeah, exactly. And one of the other things is even if you see your shoes as a cue to run, you're still sitting on the side of your bed because you're tired and you're
Hmm.
thinking, I know I got to put my shoes on, but man, I don't even, how much sleep did I get last night? Did I even get enough? Should I skip today? I mean, I didn't get a full, I was up like twice in the night. And so now you're ruminating, you're thinking about all the reasons why you shouldn't do it.
Hmm.
So having a countdown kind of interrupts that rumination, your default mode network ruminating and trying to decide, and it kind of interrupts that. So it might be good for that reason as well.
And we've talked previously, but uh, uh, a habit takes around 28 days, right? We can call it from in between
Yeah.
26 and 30 days to
Hmm.
form a habit.
Hmm.
And so
For most. Hmm.
if cue, action, reward
Hmm.
every day for, or at least repeated throughout a couple, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then that becomes a habit.
Yes.
And once it's a habit, the back channel kind of takes care of that.
Hmm.
And B is, now that I don't really have to think about it, it's a lot harder to break the habit than it is to start the habit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That, so yes, that can be true. I mean, there's caveats to that, but
Yeah,
yes, that can be
right,
true.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm going
Hmm.
back to like the running thing is
Hmm.
because I could imagine I'm laying. You were nice when you said sitting on the edge of the bed. My alarm goes off. I turn it off, and I'm laying there, and I go, I know my shoes are right there. I put them there. I have to get up and put those shoes on. But I didn't sleep well, or I'm sore from. I've
Yeah.
been running a lot. Whatever you said, ruminating. Right?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
ruminating. Um, but if there's a cue, I sit up, I get up, I put my shoes on, I go to the gym, and I do that every day for 3 weeks.
Hmm.
It's almost then, and I have this habit of oversimplifying, but it's like my alarm goes off, and I turn the alarm off, and I'm putting my shoes on before I'm really even thinking about it. Does that make
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Is
Hmm.
I've been doing
Yeah.
it for a month or whatever, and now my brain's just like alarm, shoes, car, run, or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's what I was getting to is like once that wiring takes place in my brain just takes care of all of that for me. So that's what I was trying to get to say like it's harder for me then to go to override that habit,
Hmm.
hit the alarm and go, I'm not going to run today. It
Hmm.
takes effort for me
Yeah,
to
at
do
that
that.
point. And then also, if you've been running for a while and you form that habit, I've heard from people that if you don't run, it makes you feel really bad, like you feel like something's wrong with you. You almost have to run,
Mm,
so to just
yeah.
to get going, because then you feel like things aren't right until you do run. I think, yeah, I've heard different people state that, but I think that what we've been talking about so far is good for just kind of the small tasks that we have to do. And I know you said that Mel Robbins, I didn't know her backstory, but this is what got her from financial ruin to where she is or whatever. So
Hmm.
I'm not belittling that fact, but usually those types of things like the countdown method, those types of things work for simpler behaviors and not as well for complex behaviors. It gets a little bit harder. I'm not saying they won't work, but it's harder to make them work for a really complex behavior that you've been procrastinating. Like, you know, I don't know, it's off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of one, but like writing a grant proposal for research. And that's, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to write a grant proposal in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and start writing. I
Oh,
mean,
okay. What
it's a lot more detailed
that makes
than
complete
that.
sense to me what you just said, because I was trying to think of a complex behavior that it wouldn't. But yeah, I'm going to write a grant
And
proposal. Five,
you know
four,
what I
three,
should
two,
have
one,
said?
go.
Yeah, instead of complex, something that's very effortful, but the reward or the finish line is way in the distance.
Right.
That's where those get more difficult.
So
Yeah, go
writing,
ahead.
there's in my head there's these two things. Number one is I'm going to write this grant proposal, and
Hmm.
it's due on a let's say 3 months from now. I know the
Hmm.
date that it's due,
Right.
and so I'm like, I'm going to get to it, but I have until December 1st or whatever. So it's due December 1st. So I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to it. And then if you're talking again about Sean, then November 16th or whatever, I go. I haven't even started on that grant proposal.
Yeah.
I had 3 months to do it, and I wait until the last minute to do it. Right?
But there are good reasons why you did. I mean, I was reading some other people's papers. I was contributing this way. I had to grade students' papers. So you have all of these reasons
Hmm.
why, and good reasons, but that's not really I mean, good reasons in the sense that you were working on other things. And that's another, so this is another part of procrastination. There's another aspect to it, and it's not always there, but it's there sometimes, especially for those high effort, future reward type tasks. The avoidance, when
Hmm.
you avoid something. So I'm avoiding writing because it's fuzzy. I know what I'm going to write my grant about, but I'm going to write a grant on how to create habits. But I have to write a background. I have to, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that's a little bit fuzzy because now I've got to go do research. I've got to see what other people have done with habits and kind of pull that into a background section. And I've got a lot of work to do. So I'm just kind of avoiding that right now. But instead of saying, I'm going to avoid that, I think, and this is like the back channel, the non-conscious brain protecting me, saying, you got so many other things to do. You better get to those other things.
Right.
And so
Right.
there's that avoidance thing, and it's can be tied to the task, but it can also be tied to other things like personality. It can be tied to mood and even like mood disorders. Um,
Oh,
there can be a lot of other
yeah.
things that play into it that aren't related. It can be tied to things like ADHD and things like that. It's people with ADHD struggle with avoidance procrastination more than other people without ADHD struggle with it. So
Right.
yeah, a lot of times people with ADHD are very busy and doing things, and sometimes if they have a task that's coming up, like a grant they have to write, they'll spend hours detailing the kitchen and the bathroom. I mean, their house will just be spick and span because they have worked so hard for hours. Because in their mind and their kind of the back channels, negotiation is, I didn't have time because I was working so hard. So they don't sit and watch TV to avoid it because then they're hard on themselves saying, I could have done it while I was watching TV. But if they're productive in some other way, then you say, yeah, I was too busy being productive in these other ways to get that done. So it's a type of avoidance, but it allows, it's more easy to swallow that type of avoidance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was
And
productive. I had all these other things I had to do first,
yeah,
and I couldn't
so
get to it.
that's one of the things that the countdown method doesn't really address, those types of
Yeah.
procrastination and motivation issues. But I think for the most part, that's a good, trigger to get you moving. The
Yeah.
countdown, it's a good cue.
Because I was thinking of, as you were talking, I was thinking about motivation. Um, like if you've ever worked in state government or federal government, any level of
Hmm.
government, I don't care. The bureaucracy that involved is when your boss asks you to do something that they want you to write a report about this thing that
Hmm.
no one's going to read, that no one, all this, but you have to write this report.
Right.
And there again, you have however many months to write the report, but there's no motivation, intrinsic or external. You're just like, I don't want to do this thing. And so, you find all these other reasons. And I was tying it back to the countdown method of, I understand your point about like this big project that's going to take a long amount of time, but the countdown or whatever method, whatever cue that you're using, and again, this might just be for me, but it's just get started on it. Because once I get started on the paper, I'm more likely to finish it. Yes. To me, it's about getting started. It's that I have 6 months to write this thing. I'll do it, in 3 months. I'll do it next. I'll do it whatever. That's that, because I'm not motivated, because I don't believe in the project or whatever. If I just use that cue and go, just write the first paragraph. Just write the whatever. For me, it feels like once I've done that thing, maybe that's the equivalent of just put your shoes on.
Yeah, maybe so.
Is once I've started writing it, now it's kind of like, well, I've already started. So I don't know. I don't know if that's making sense, but that's more of just my own.
Yeah, it is. I think we also have to consider that motivation includes, it evaluates things. So it evaluates effort and reward. So it's kind of like effort versus reward.
Oh.
So if something is low effort, low reward, it might be, I'll try it, I'll semi-motivated, but motivation is not very high because the reward's not very high. If you have low effort, high reward, that's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
And you can be really motivated to do that. If it's high effort and low reward, those are really difficult to get motivated for, because what am I going to all this effort and work for when I'm not really going to get anything out of it? So if you're talking about it, like you were mentioning the report, I don't want to write it. I was assigned this because other people don't want to write it. Nobody's going to read it, so I'm not going to get any recognition for that. I mean, it's just a task that I have to do that's going to take a lot of effort. So I'm least motivated about this than anything. And then there's the high effort, high reward that motivate some people more than other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew. Interesting. All this about flower pot in the driveway, just wow.
Well, so one way to overcome that, I think, is through cognitive reframing. So you can reframe the task that you need to do. So you can frame it in a way that creates the high reward at the end. It depends on how you think about it. So if I'm going to think about writing this report that nobody's going to read and nobody wants to do it and I don't want to do it, but it's going to take a lot of effort, I can start framing it in a way that I do get a reward out of it. Like even if nobody reads this, if I could use this as practice for trying to get a promotion down the road. So I'm going to put effort into this and write this really well, because I'll include it in my promotion packet that I submit. Or, if you reframe it in terms like that, where you can come up with if you can come up with a reward, or you can come up with something that's a little bit more high stakes for the return on effort type.
Even if going back to the report of, because I just realized I try to do this as much as I can, but I missed an opportunity here of, hey, you got to write this report that nobody wants to write, that nobody's going to read. And my first thought, going back to your reframing, is my first thought should be good. This will give me some practice writing, or this will help me be better at. So it's just about your ability to, like you said, reframe this to be a reward for me somehow.
And you can reframe effort.
Motivation.
You can reframe effort. Like, this is going to be so hard because I don't even know what I'm going to write it about. So it's a really fuzzy problem. You can reframe that to say, I'm going to make this really simple. I don't know what the 3 things are yet, but I'm going to just pick 3 things and write about those. And so that already makes it seem less effortful. And so you can reframe both ends of it. And that's the advantage of having an on-channel, right? Your conscious awareness to override back-channel urges and impulses. Just by reframing how you think about something, you can overcome that.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to recap. There was so much information that you just gave
There
me.
was a lot, yeah.
And again, this is for me because I wanted the takeaways here, and not that they're in order, but motivation. If we're talking about procrastination, motivation is kind of tied to, or it is tied to, level of effort and the reward.
Mm-hmm.
And so your ability to reframe some of these things into a reward, even if high effort, high reward, low effort, high reward, all those categories you gave, just your ability to kind of look at it a little bit differently and try to find a positive out of a task. That reward part will help. The other thing is the biggest thing that I took is that cue, action, reward, rinse and repeat, right? Like pattern.
The habit formation.
Habit formation.
Way. Yeah.
For things that maybe you don't necessarily want to do, or you want to do. That's not the right way to say it, but I think you understand what I mean. Is
yes, yep.
These things that, and so there's the two things is motivation, reward, reframe, the cue, action, reward, habit, and I had a third. Give me a second. Oh man, because I want to take that with me too. But what am I missing? Do you remember? There was a lot. I know, but
there was a lot. Yeah,
it was really just about cue, action, reward, habit, and
then there was a way to overcome
reframe.
inertia, but overcome inertia through like the countdown method, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to get you start to trigger that cue.
Yeah. A strong cue. That strong cue where the cue is, hey, do this thing. The countdown says we're going to do it in this time, in 5 seconds. I really like that part, the strong cue. Or I want to go back to whatever you want to use as a cue, right? It's just...
See, in my mind, the countdown cue, I'm like, I saw this on a social media recently. Somebody was bungee jumping. And they were there. They're already in the harness, and they're standing backwards, holding onto the rail. There's nothing behind them, just space that they're gonna leave off a bridge or whatever. And they're having second thoughts. And so the person that's there says, "No, you're going to do. I know. I'm going to do this. No, you're going to do this. I know you're going to do it now. No, I know. I'm thinking about. I'm just trying to think about." And they're coming up with
their bargaining
conversations,
right? Like
you're bargaining,
doing everything not to do this.
I love that bargaining. Yeah, so they're bargaining their way, and so the person says, "All right, I'm going to push you in 3, 1," and they'll go, "Wait," because no, I've got, and they'll go 2, and they'll say, "Wait, I've got to talk about." Then they went 3 and just shoved them. But that would be in my mind on the countdown, 5, 4. I would go, "Wait, I need to think about this." My brain would go 3, and I would be bargaining, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I could see myself using that method and bargaining.
Which is why I'm saying, whatever the cue is, right? Like anyone who's listening to this, has these things with motivation, and not even a huge thing. It's getting out and pulling weeds. It's, I don't know, like go down the list, whatever it is. I'm just trying to give people some tools. So I don't want to tie the cue part to a specific, to the countdown or anything else. It's just, I want people to understand what you taught me today about the things that are important for motivation is have a cue, whatever the cue is. And maybe it's specific to the task that we're talking about. The shoes next to the bed is a cue. I'm trying, whatever. You come up with these cues that spur you to action for tasks that maybe you're not thrilled about, whether it's the motivation is external or internal, but the reward's not high enough, right? Like all of these things is just come up with a cue just to get you started.
Yeah.
And then once you take that action and you feel the reward, whether it's a sense of accomplishment, you got something done, whether it's your boss, saying good job, your spouse saying good job, whatever the reward is, get the reward. And then you got to do it, for a few weeks.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to point out that you should start small to learn this. So don't start with your very biggest thing on your plate, the very biggest mountain that you have to move, and say, I'm going to start with that, because that's again, those, especially, the things that are take time, or the rewards, like those things are really difficult anyway. Not that you can't use these methods, but those are difficult. So start with something that's really easy, that you can get a quick feeling of, I accomplished that, like a really achievable win, to get that feeling of that feels really good. And then just add a little bit, just kind of scaffold and get a little bit more and more complicated. So then maybe the habit loop becomes cue, and then action, and then the reward, which gives you dopamine, which then sustains that for your next cue, and kind of maybe just a little bit bigger loop, because you have to have those wins and that excitement to try it again. And if you start really big, you might miss that dopamine and sustain motivation.
Good point. Yeah. Very good point. A lot of good points. Go ahead.
I need to reevaluate what, like, my habits and what I'm doing, because this is a lot of good advice for me too. I hadn't heard of the Mel Robbins method. The name sounded familiar. I hadn't really looked into that until, now looking.
Yeah, I just heard her on a podcast, but I'm seeing her pop up on, my news feed and stuff like that. She's on podcasts, talk shows, and she has a book, and all that. This, not promoting her. I just, I want to give her credit for, she went through some hard times, came up with something that sounds similar to what you're describing.
Yeah, a lot of times things that work, they work for a reason. So if it's working for her and working for people, if it wasn't working, she wouldn't have a following.
Right.
So if something's working, there's probably something true or positive about it. So, it's like the insurance actuaries that set the age of 25 of when your insurance rates drop. And then it turns out neuroscience confirmed that that's when the brain finally fully develops. So, it's like you can know things before you know why something is the way it is.
Yeah.
So like her finding that and it being successful and her having a large following, now there's reasons to explain why it works. Like I can explain some reasons why it works, but a lot of times when things work, there's a reason why it works. So I was glad to hear about that. I'll look into Mel Robbins a little bit more.
Good. Well, I look up and we're at an hour and 2 minutes, John.
Wow.
It flies by. It's so much fun. So I just thank you for everything that you taught me today about motivation and procrastination. And I'm going to hopefully put some of this to good use.
Good. Just keep flexing those neurons, or stay curious. Those were the two, right?
Yeah.
Stay curious about motivation.
Okay. See, I like how you tied that in there. That's good. For everybody else, thank you as always for sticking with us. My goal, not in every episode, but in episodes like this, is to give you actionable tool, like something to use in your daily life based on the neuroscience that John is bringing us. And so hopefully you got that. If you did, I really reach out to us on our socials. Everything is John Teaches Sean. We're on Blue Sky. If you want to leave a comment, wherever you're listening to this podcast, TikTok, John's personal TikTok, brain_dude, still just putting out great information, and plugging the show, which I appreciate, John. Thank you. Our website, which we don't have any merch that we're selling or much to put on the website, but you can listen to the show through the website, johnteachessean.com. And I think that's everything that I have. Thank you as always. And until next week, take care of yourself and we'll see you then.
Just Sean.